Thank you for joining the Once Changing the World, India's first Future Tech Meets Sustainability podcast. And today, I'm delighted and honored to have with me Professor Sandeep Kumar Shukla, who's a professor of computer science and engineering at the Department of IIT Kanpur and was head of the department from 2017 to 2020. He was the Poonam and Prabhu Goel Chair Professor, along with being a joint director of the National Interdisciplinary Centre for Cybersecurity and Cyber Defense of Critical Infrastructures at IIT Kanpur. He is also a joint director of the National Blockchain Project funded by the Prime Minister's Office. Professor Shukla received the Presidential Early Career Award for Scientists and Engineers from President George Bush. He has published over 300 peer-reviewed conference papers, journal articles, book chapters, 10 books, and worked as editor for several noted journals and technical publications. So thank you, Professor. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. So today's topic of discussion, blockchain as well as cybersecurity, if you get the time. But starting with blockchain, I think it'll be great if you could kind of, prime the audience and give a lowdown on what blockchain technology is.
Yeah. So blockchain, the idea of blockchain came about in 2008, 2009, when a pseudonymous person or persons called Satoshi Nakamoto published a white paper on a peer-to-peer monetary transaction, which is completely autonomous, which does not require a third party or trusted party to actually mediate the transactions. And he took ideas that were there for a while, like, for example, the idea of public key cryptography, idea of hashes and digital signatures, idea of hash pointers, idea of Merkle tree. So all these various concepts that came from cryptography and distributed computing, he took them together, but in a very novel way, he actually created a protocol. And that would be this protocol, if run by a large number of computers together, then they can actually maintain a ledger of transactions such that that ledger cannot be easily tampered with, even though there is no trusted party that is maintaining the ledger. The ledger is actually replicated on all the nodes or all participating nodes, and it's basically updated by a method called consensus. So you have to suppose there is a transaction from A to B, then that transaction first has to be validated by all the participating nodes. And the way to validate that is to first check that A actually has the funds that it wants to spend to send to B. And second is that it is actually indeed A who is making that transaction by checking its digital signature. And once the transactions are validated, then they have to be actually stored such that in the future, if A again tries to send the same fund to somebody else, it can be caught. And this is what is called a double spending check. So to check double spending, we need to have the history of the transactions. So what we call blockchain is actually a kind of a sequence of transactions that have happened already into the in the system, and anybody and everybody can check that it has happened. And whenever somebody wants to validate a transaction, it has to check whether the sender of the money actually has already spent the money or not. And if he has already spent, then that transaction cannot be valid. So, and then the question is, how do you maintain the data structure of this sequence of transactions, history of transactions? So there are many ways. So there is a more general term called distributed ledger technology, where the ledger may take different forms. But in case of blockchain, it takes the form of a set of blocks which are connected to each other in a very computational sense. They are not connected to each other in a physical sense, but they are computationally connected to each other. And the way that is done is that you put a set of transactions into a block, and then you have to claim that that is the block you want to add to the ledger. Now, many nodes may want to do the same, because once you add a block into the ledger, you get some rewards. So because of the rewards, many people may compete to create the new block or next block. And because of that, there is a method that Satoshi Nakamoto started, and this is called a proof of work. In the proof of work, every node that wants to create a block has to try to solve a puzzle, and that's a mathematical puzzle called the hash puzzle. And the one that solves the puzzle first will be able to actually will be allowed to actually be the next maker of a new block. Now the question then is that how do you know that not a lot of people can solve the same problem? The issue is that the problem is very hard, and it takes about 10 minutes to solve, and that is the way Bitcoin at least works. That Bitcoin blockchain, the puzzle gets harder and harder over time, so that 10-minute window is more or less fixed. So in 10 minutes, somebody has to solve the puzzle, and once they solve the puzzle, they broadcast the block, and anybody can check whether the puzzle solution that they have put in the block is actually correct or not. And also, while creating the block, you actually put the hash of the previous block in this block, so that people know that you are the next block from the block whose hash you have put into your block. So that is how the blockchain more or less works. Now, there are other methods of consensus. For example, Ethereum has now moved to proof of stake. There are methods for like proof of history and various other techniques for consensus, Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus, and so on. But the idea is the same, that there are many contenders to create the next block, and one has to be selected. How you select? It could be through proof of work, it could be through proof of stake, it could be through Byzantine fault tolerance, many other methods.
Right. Professor, really appreciate you kind of giving the entire lowdown on blockchain, how it works, who kind of started it, who originated it. So what you're saying, that it's a tech stack, which is the ethos behind, or the principles of it, it's tamper-proof, it's trusted, it's distributed, it's immutable, it's also decentralized, and the consensus mechanism it works. There's a couple of them. There's proof of work, proof of stake, proof of history, and stuff like that. And collectively, I think this technology of what you're kind of pointing out is going to play a huge role in the coming future, because I think post-COVID, we've been accelerated in a world which is largely very digital, virtual. I've been invested in metaverse, and this generation is extreme. They live virtually. My kid, who's an 8-year-old, his friends, all of them, they meet on a virtual platform. They interact on a virtual platform. They play on a virtual platform. And these metaverse, spatial world, or virtual worlds that we're talking about, possibly could be in the next, maybe possibly decade or so, it could be so realistic that most of our work, play, businesses, banking, and everything would be done on there. And the underlying possibly economical layer, consensus layer, could be blockchain. So thank you for explaining this technology. Could you also give a lowdown about National Blockchain Project? What was the vision behind it? And maybe also some of the projects that's initiated by the National Blockchain Project.
Right. So actually, National Blockchain Project, it started in 2017 when the National Cybersecurity Coordinator, as you might know, he works, the National Cybersecurity Coordinator works in the National Security Council Secretariat, which is under the Prime Minister's office. And National Cybersecurity Coordinator at that time was Dr. Gulshan Rai. And he's a visionary person, many years of experience. So he actually gave us this charter that this new thing, this blockchain and cryptocurrency and permission blockchain, everything everybody is talking about. And government is also looking at that from the Niti Aayog perspective, and from the Ministry of IT perspective, and so on. But we want to not have technology surprise, and therefore, can you create a project in which you will be developing a national application technology for blockchain for e-governance. We are talking about creating trust. So blockchain, another part of the whole blockchain idea was decentralization, and therefore by decentralizing the trust that we put in on the centralized authorities or centralized institutions, we actually want to, that many times the citizens actually get their services through those centralized systems, and therefore we may not like to have that kind of system, or is it even possible to actually have decentralized trust or trust, what we call quote unquote trustless system, so that citizens have a better trust on the services and the data when they give up their data to centralized authorities and so on. So we started this in 2018. So we wrote proposals and so on, and it went through various levels of scrutiny and review meetings and presentations. And then we decided that we'll be doing, first basic research on blockchain technology, which kind of blockchain technology is more suitable for e-governance type of applications, permissioned or permissionless. If permission, then which ones, and so on and so forth. And then we actually had another, so the project was 3 phases. First phase is feasibility study. Second phase was about doing the R&D to figure out what kind of problems, citizen-centric problems could be actually suitable for blockchain-based implementation. And then the third deliverable was that we have to at least work with 2 government agencies to develop the solutions that are actually implemented and deployed in the real world. And then the idea was that to create a company, a startup that will take over, because we as an academic institution cannot continue to support such things. So a company had to be developed. So that was happening. And we talked to many different government organizations like the Land Department of Land, Department of Revenue and Registration, at various state governments and so on. Eventually, we worked with the government of Karnataka, and we were lucky to have Mr. Rajiv Chawla, who was heading the e-governance initiatives at the government of Karnataka at that time. And we actually worked with them to actually develop the registration, like the entire registration process of land records or land transfer. That process we put on blockchain, and it was piloted in 6 districts. But unfortunately, then Mr. Chawla retired and moved on to better things. And then it kind of got stuck there. But in the meantime, during his time, we also worked with the governance people to actually also bring in blockchain-based e-procurement infrastructure. And 5 states got onboarded on that. And then and various banks got onboarded on that. And this was about keeping track of information about various vendors, because various state procurements happen kind of in silos, and therefore you do not know whether a particular vendor did something wrong in another state or did not deliver or delayed unnecessarily, or there was dispute. This kind of information is not visible usually, so we wanted to make it visible through this mechanism. And also from that we can also we onboarded the banks and so on, so there could be this loans and stuff for delivery, etc., were supposed to be done. The third thing that we did was self-sovereign identity and blockchain, and that became more popular in the sense that first in 2021, IIT Kanpur issued all its degrees in its convocation, and the Prime Minister was here, and he actually, by the press of a button, issued 1,700 plus degree certificates which went to the wallets, in the hands of the students. It was quite exciting, and then Prime Minister actually wanted us to do this for the yearly. There is something called a Bal Puraskar, which is given in around 26 January. So we did that, and then since then we have done degree certificates issuance for multiple different organizations, very large universities like AKTU in UP, or NIT Rourkela, or IIT Indore, and various other places. So that's more or less the lowdown on the National Blockchain Project.
Professor, I really appreciate you kind of giving the lowdown on how blockchain is being used, how you've been leveraging it right from land registration to e-procurement of infrastructure, self-sovereign identity, degree certificates. This is still in its nascent stage, and eventually, I think this technology, I think all technology stacks, once it's in nascent stage, it goes through its hype cycle of ups and downs, and blockchain, like every other technology like AI and metaverse, has gone through its ups and downs, and it's got its pros and cons, which is loaded. There was these like NFT boom and bust cycle, there was cryptocurrency boom and bust cycle. Now that the government has also taken the approach of creating central bank digital currency, it's a pilot program at this point in time. Could you kind of differentiate a CBDC, a digital rupee, between that versus the digital payment that we currently have? And if you could briefly also maybe allude to permission versus permissionless blockchain, where how does that get used?
Okay, so let me give you an example. So suppose many of you have played Monopoly, right? In Monopoly, there are paper money, right? So you can actually, let's assume in an ideal world, you figure out a way to print paper money by yourself, and all your relatives and family and friends decide to honor it. So they will give you something. If you give them some of the paper money, then they can use that for bartering something else from their other friends and so on. Then it becomes some kind of a medium of exchange and unit of account. It may not have it may or may not play as a store of value. However, suppose this money that you create, this additional money that you create, and assuming that the government doesn't shut you down for creating your own money, suppose this becomes quite a bit in demand, and then somebody is willing to even pay you fiat currency, the rupees or dollars, for some of your money, right? Then it will also and more it becomes less available, more price people are willing to give, right? So that way you create this addition, a different money, which is a private money, right? It's private money you can create, and then you can basically if you are really greedy, you can do various things. You can probably withdraw some of your money from the market, so that the market becomes it becomes very highly demanded, and its price goes up, and at that point you sell a lot of it that you have hidden, and therefore the prices come down. So you get rid of all your holdings, but the poor other relatives will be in trouble because they cannot make much money out of it. So those kind of things can happen because you are working in an unregulated space. Nobody is telling you how to behave, right? So you printed your money, you kind of made it, you have some kind of a technology by which people can detect if it is your money or it is a counterfeit of your money. And then this money is circulating, and then you or others are holding and various holding patterns and doing this, right? Now think about it on top of that. If you somehow create anonymity in this, already it's like a cash, so it is pretty anonymous. But if you can make it even more anonymous to track who is giving who some money, then now you're going to attract some terrorists and money launderers and who knows what, right? So this is what is happening with cryptocurrency. So when Satoshi Nakamoto created cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, he did not want to have that Bitcoin have any correlation with the fiat currency, right? He created that it will be a exchange, it will be a unit of account, it will be a some kind of a this thing, store of value, whatever. But and then that's why he built in a 21 million cap on the number of Bitcoins that can ever be created, so that it is also inflation proof. And his main some of his writings seems to show that he was very upset that banks were being bailed out in 2008 financial crisis by quantitative easing and the creation of additional fiat currency, and thereby devaluing the actual whatever currency, dollar or whatever is done. So therefore, this cryptocurrency has become a kind of a wild west, right? So it is a private money now. Private money is not new in the pre 1930s US. Before Federal Reserve was created, it was common to have state issued money, etc. So, but the problem that the people tried to solve by bringing in Federal Reserve, or in our case, the central banks, is to actually not have this kind of arbitrary speculation, arbitrary arbitrage, and various other ways to think. And in those days, there were a lot of problems created by this arbitrage and so on. So therefore, I think that the various cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there are like almost like I don't remember the number, but probably 30,000 different types of cryptocurrencies have been created, and they are being used for various crimes and so on. Like, for example, since Ethereum gas price is so high, so they created Tron. And now if you talk to law enforcement in India, Tron is one of the major currency that is used for various kinds of scams that are happening. So therefore, cryptocurrency has its from a libertarian philosophical point of view, cryptocurrency is private currency, and therefore it is the way to actually have currency, or that's what the libertarian point of view is. However, libertarian point of view has not been accepted in any country as a majority opinion, right? Even in the US, right? Although right now in the US politics is quite in a flux, but even there, the libertarian point of view, that we don't worry about constitution, we do not worry about the constitutional institutions like the central bank, like the treasury, etc., or the court system, etc. If you have that mindset, then you will actually love the idea of cryptocurrency. Of course, it's another approach to cryptocurrency is that Satoshi wanted it to be a medium of transaction, but it has not been a medium of transaction. It has become more like a speculation instrument, right? So it's kind of like like a stock market type of investments, but it is more in the speculation side. Because in stock market, when you invest in a company, you actually have some idea about the company's finances and various other indicators, and based on that, you can do some analysis. In case of cryptocurrency, it's very difficult to do that. And you have seen the wild rides that has happened. Central bank digital currencies has nothing to do with cryptocurrency, actually. So it may or may not be implemented with blockchain technology as its backend technology. But central bank digital currency is like a regular rupee note or regular dollar note, except that it is in the digital form, right? So it's actually a money that is actually created by the central bank. So in cryptocurrency blockchain, we do not create the money. Money is created by as part of the reward mechanism in the block making process, right? So there is no way for me to say that let there be 25 bitcoins and bitcoins will be created. It is not possible. So in case of central bank has the power to actually create money. Now, based on the fiscal policies and of the government and the monetary policy of the central bank to manage inflation, to manage the economic activity, when and the creation of enough enough money for businesses to create productive labor market for employment, etc. So central banks actually decide how much money supply they want to create, and there are various controls they can apply. For example, they can apply interest rate rise or cut to actually decide on the how much money supply they want in the economy, and so on. So central bank digital currency is actually like a rupee. Instead of printing a rupee, they are going to create tokens that are actually residing on a payment rail, or some kind of a treasury chest, digital treasury chest of the banks. The banks can actually get those against the amount of reserve they keep in the reserve bank or the central bank, and then the customers of the bank can take them like ATM. So their wallets will now behave like ATM. So they will say, okay, against my account, give me this many digital tokens, because I do not want to carry cash, or my merchant does not accept cash, and I do not have credit card, or I do not want to use credit card. So I will want to pay by your tokenized rupee. So that's how the central bank digital currency works. It has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Now, the question is that why is the central bank digital currency being created by many central banks, or at least being tried or piloted by many central banks, including India, is because paper money is very, very expensive to maintain. It costs a lot to print them. It also it's heavy, so it has transportation cost, and also it has the cost of destroying them as they become soiled. And also it's easier to hide various money laundering and other activities, hawalas and stuff with paper money. So that is a well accepted fact. Now, the central bank digital currency, the question that comes up, and this is often the libertarian viewpoint, is that well, if the government is creating the money, I am using the government rails instead of my blockchain, where the government has no control, then I'm going to be known for all my activities. And this is a very important question, and this has been widely researched by the Bank of International Settlements, International Monetary Fund, and also the various central banks. And there are ways to actually create give this privacy similar to cash for low value transactions. Of course, in India, even today, if you do a 50,000 plus transaction, you cannot be without PAN, and you cannot do without your KYC. But you can. So similarly, in CBDC also, as the CBDC is rolled out, it will be obviously the case, the technology will be designed in such a way so that up to that amount, whatever amount, threshold amount the government decides, it will be created, the privacy. The central bank will have no access to know where this cash, who is paying how many CBDC to whom. It will not aggregate, like for every kind of payment service provider or bank wherever the customers are onboarded. There is an aggregate level information that the central bank needs to know in order to know where where the money is, how much CBDC is in circulation, how much is locked into the various static investments and so on, so that they know how to control the economic stability and all that stuff. But they will not know individuals spending up to that amount, up to maybe, let's say, I'm just guessing 50,000 rupees. So that anonymity question will be there. But in case of investigation, in case of an investigation under the special order by the authorities, there may be ways, they can confiscate your phone in case of an investigation, and do a forensic on your phone and know who all you send your CBDC, even though central bank doesn't know, right? So if you do anything digital, and that can happen with cryptocurrency also. If you are using any device to do your cryptocurrency transaction, and if government comes to, if FBI or ED comes to your door and confiscates your laptop or device, they can do forensics to know what you have done. So it's not, so CBDC is actually, and as you said, sustainability, right? So in terms of sustainability, we have to go into digital realm of currency, right? We cannot keep printing billions of rupee notes and keep move them throughout the country on various kinds of transportation, and then have them soiled and bring back to RBI to destroy them. These are very carbon, not a very carbon friendly, environment friendly activities. So digital will actually will be the inevitable way for sustainability. Of course, there should be more analysis on even digital has carbon footprint, right? And digital runs on computational rails and network and so on. So there is carbon footprint. So people have to do the right analysis. But I think eventually everything will be digital.
Right, fair enough. So I think I take the point that eventually everything will be digital. I think the reason Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin, because he saw genuine problems with the fiat currency. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason he created this technology, which is tamper-proof, trusted, immutable, decentralized. Yes, the cryptocurrency world took the tech stack in a way where, because we live in a capitalist world, and started squeezing out people and went to the monetary side. But if like whatever points you mentioned, about how cryptocurrency is volatile, instead of being a medium of transaction, people are holding it, and there's money laundering and so forth. That stands true for fiat currency also, because fiat currency so far has been used for money laundering. There is some of the largest banking scams have happened with fiat currency. And for the first time, like I said earlier, I mean, you also alluded to that we are getting into a digital world, a virtual world. In a digital world, obviously we'll need to move to a virtual currency. I'm not in no ways saying that we need cryptocurrency, but CBD itself is centralized, while the ethos of blockchain is decentralized. So how does this play out, the centralized versus decentralization? Because all our traditional institutes today, whether it's governments, whether it's banks, whether it's institutions, whether it's enterprise, they function in a traditional top-down hierarchical manner. A bank, when they print out money, earlier it used to be on the basis of reserve of gold. Today, it's the will and fancy of a government on the kind of money that we are printed. So do you see that eventually there could be virtual currencies which would go mainstream? Because I think in 2020 Deloitte had created a report, and they had interviewed some of the top bankers from around the world, and from the report they claimed that in 5 years or 10 years time, we will transition to a virtual currency, a cryptocurrency, from fiat currency to. So what are your thoughts on centralized versus decentralized, your fiat currencies versus cryptocurrencies, in those, on that angle?
So initially, I also thought that. What is around 2016-17, I would have thought that, okay, centralized is bad and decentralized is good and so on. Now I have evolved and I feel differently, and I'll tell you what I feel now. So what I saw, so if you look at the Bitcoin, right? So if you look at the actual hash power today, top five mining pools actually have 90% of the hash power, right? Now we do not know who they are, right? So therefore, what is the possibility if you believe in conspiracy theory, then you can always believe that these five are actually the some of the what is it, the angels and demons type of some kind of a conspiracy ancient group like the and they actually they are maintaining these five pools, and they can any day want to do something that will whatever small bitcoins that you and somebody else has may just completely crash and so on. Unlikely to happen, but if you believe in conspiracy theory, why not that conspiracy theory? Same thing in Ethereum. I looked at the couple of months ago, I looked at the stakers, and then top five stakers had more than 51%, right? So I think that decentralization is often overhyped, but then you can say that, okay, this is true for bankers also, and this is true for, how the Vijay Mallya's and Nirav Modi's actually, fell through the system, and they escaped and with lots of our, taxpayers' money and so on. Now, the question is that, how do you want to solve this problem? So, and then the reason why 2016 is that important for me is because I saw Trump, and I saw that he unleashed chaos. He withdrew from Paris Climate Accord. He withdrew from various. He was planning to withdraw from various other alignments. Some of them might be good ones, and some of them are bad ones. But then what happened in 2020 January and so on and so forth, I kind of came to believe that if we continue to tell people that do not trust constitutional institutions, trust is not good, and you should have a trustless system, what we are ushering in is a completely chaotic future for humankind. So, and actually, it's a libertarian belief that government is bad. Government has nothing to do with us other than just protecting the borders. Everybody is its own nation. And I have seen such people in the US. They actually have guns. They live in large ranches, and they have their own food production and so on. And they believe that the government has no legitimacy, right? Now, this means that your world will be divided into millions of small silos of people who believe in their own currency, who believe in their own, whatever self-sufficiency and so on. Now, the humankind, unfortunately, cannot live like that, in my opinion, in that sense. So my current belief is that we have to actually reform the constitutional systems. We have to be more educated and be more understanding of what our constitution actually provides us, what is our how the democracy works, how the democratic rights work, and make sure that the institutions on which these things depend, like the central bank, is held to account for anything that happens. So in other words, I'm saying that even though it might be a very hard work, but for the future of human civilization, I think this is the only way. If we try to proliferate technology and say that, okay, using this technology, I am independent of the government and I am independent of the institutions, instead of trying to reform the institutions, we are going to go into a very chaotic world, and this is not in the long run very sustainable. Because remember, if every family is an individual unit, see, first of all, I believe that Web3 does not need cryptocurrency. Web3 is about having sovereignty over your own content. When you are a content, so unlike Facebook and Google and YouTube, etc., where you give out the content to a centralized system, you actually want to have sovereignty over it, and if you want to monetize it, you should be able to monetize it, and there should be ways to actually monetize it. So there should be a way to actually create the market making of all your contents, right? So you can use any payment rail to actually enable this. So the fact that Web3 is kind of often confused with cryptocurrency ecosystem, I do not believe in that. Second thing is that see, mobile, for example, the mobile system or internet, they have changed our lives in many different ways, right? Now AI is going to change our lives in many different ways. We are already seeing that the ChatGPT is a big problem for us when we give homeworks and so on. But I think that cryptocurrency, and this is completely my opinion, and I think most people who are dealing with cryptocurrency do not subscribe to this. I think it's not going to stay for too long. It may stay as a side thing, but it may not stay for too long. But there are other things like tokenization of assets, right? Tokenization of various kinds of bonds and investments and so on and so forth. So that right now we keep many things like stocks, for example. So we put them in depositories, right? So so one may want to hold it on their own wallets, right? So and then have ways to have some kind of a peer-to-peer exchange and so on and so forth. So I think that there are various aspects of what we are calling Web3, that is sovereignty over your content, sovereignty over your digital content or assets, is certainly is somewhere that it is going, and therefore I think the regulations are now going to be more focused on crypto assets rather than cryptocurrency. So there will be, and these tokenized assets, whether you want to call them crypto assets or you want to call them tokenized assets, it's a matter of a parlance that one has to decide.
No, completely. So yes, I mean, neither. I think I'm saying it's black or white. It's either centralized or decentralized. I think we are working together and finding answers, because these tech stacks are not the only solution. I guess the human ingenuity is such a huge role. You leverage these techs and find utility and create a service solution which helps the larger society. So I think we are all trying to kind of figure out what those solutions can be, to creating a better society. So obviously, I don't think there is going to be, only decentralization. I think and obviously government plays such a crucial role in keeping us together. So I think we need to all work together and find these answers. Now, you mentioned about these regulation. Would you have some views on India's cryptocurrency regulation? Because, there's been a brain drain of sort, when it comes to, these cryptocurrencies and Web3 or startups. And you alluded to, and you pointed out, there are these companies such as FTX and Binance, which is caught up in crypto scams. But it's not just that. There are these other startups and these brilliant minds who are working tirelessly into creating a future with a tech stack, with leveraging Web3, blockchain, AI, to create an equitable future. So there is a brain drain of sorts when it comes to the Web3 because of the in India's regulation, which is like 30% tax on virtual assets and 1% TDS on all transaction. What are your views on that? And is there a way where you think that we could, get these, these startups who are migrating to countries such as, Dubai and UAE, to get them back? Because I believe that India is such a huge powerhouse when it comes to Web3 and engineering. And I think the future is obviously going to be metaverse, Web3, blockchain, AI. If we get them them back, I think, we'll be able to create better service and solutions. What are the ways you think we could get these guys who are migrating to back and creating an ecosystem which is sustainable for Web3 and blockchain in India?
See, first of all, I believe that Web3 does not need cryptocurrency. Web3 is about having sovereignty over your own content. When you are a content, so unlike Facebook and Google and YouTube, etc., where you give out the content to a centralized system, you actually want to have sovereignty over it, and if you want to monetize it, you should be able to monetize it, and there should be ways to actually monetize it. So there should be a way to actually create the market making of all your contents, right? So you can use any payment rail to actually enable this. So the fact that Web3 is kind of often confused with cryptocurrency ecosystem, I do not believe in that. Second thing is that see, mobile, for example, the mobile system or internet, they have changed our lives in many different ways, right? Now, AI is going to change our lives in many different ways. We are already seeing that the ChatGPT is a big problem for us when we give homeworks and so on. But I think that cryptocurrency, and this is completely my opinion, and I think most people who are dealing with cryptocurrency do not subscribe to this. I think it's not going to stay for too long. It may stay as a side thing, but it may not stay for too long. But there are other things like tokenization of assets, right? Tokenization of various kinds of bonds and investments and so on and so forth. So that right now we keep many things like stocks, for example. So we put them in depositories, right? So so one may want to hold it on their own wallets, right? So and then have ways to have some kind of a peer-to-peer exchange and so on and so forth. So I think that there are various aspects of what we are calling Web3, that is sovereignty over your content, sovereignty over your digital content or assets, is certainly is somewhere that it is going, and therefore I think the regulations are now going to be more focused on crypto assets rather than cryptocurrency. So there will be, and these tokenized assets, whether you want to call them crypto assets or you want to call them tokenized assets, it's a matter of a parlance that one has to decide. But what I understand is that so I have read the synthesis paper that came out before G20, and I saw various discussions around it. So I think that first of all, I think that right now it is almost impossible to actually regulate in one jurisdiction in one way and regulate it in the next jurisdiction in another way, because that will lead to various kinds of arbitrage. So I think that eventually there has to be some regulation. Already there are some, like for example, there are some tax-related regulation already, which I think that is quite actually timely. Even though a lot of people are claiming that TDS issue is problematic for them, but I'm not sure about that. But it also there may be GST coming on crypto asset transactions. I think that the government actually currently has the mind that well, we do not know whether it is good or bad, but if you are doing it, we'll tax it, right? We'll see whether it's good or bad later, right? So that's the situation. But I think that the regulation will eventually come. because as the G20 nations all frame some regulation, India will also frame its regulation. But until at least a large number of the G20 nations frame their regulation, I do not see India coming up with its own, because actually, as the finance minister has said many times, that doing it in one-sided way, it doesn't work. So I believe that is the case. So I think that eventually G20 nations will again come back and put together some proposal, and then they will discuss. Some jurisdictions may make it a little more than what the G20 nations decide to do. But I don't see it happening like in a year or so. I think it will take a long time.
So my last question to you. I was watching this movie, Leave the World Behind, on Netflix. It's about cyber attacks, cyber warfare. Now, you are the program director for the C3i Hub. Now, we've been catapulted into this digital world, and in this digital world, there's is that we humans are unable to fathom, because all of these tech stack is converging. And once these tech stacks converge, they become extremely potent, and it goes beyond our understanding, because nobody kind of predicted that large language models would go completely take over the world in the forms that we wouldn't understand. That you could create text to search, text to images, text to videos, text to virtual worlds, and text to so many other things. These generative AI platform, the entire world is getting digital. So for someone who's been your expertise is cybersecurity, share your thoughts on this, because this movie kind of showed this situation where another country possibly had hacked into the power grids, the internet connectivity, the satellites, and so what can be done in a cyber through these cyber hacks, because earlier nuclear weapons and your banking industries, all of these were analogs. Today, everything is digital. So maybe share your thoughts, share your works, and what needs. What India needs to be done to be completely cyber secure.
So that is actually true for most countries, but India has leapfrogged in many areas where, like, if you go to banking and fintech industry in the US, they're far behind India. Similarly, if you look at the rollout of 5G, etc. in India, they leapfrogged advanced countries, right? So India has had the advantage of starting late, but then leapfrogging because they got the later technologies and so on. So I think that, and the other problem is that cybersecurity awareness, cybersecurity thoughts have been rather new in Indian politicians and ministries and the regulators and so on. Although RBI and SEBI, they started putting out cybersecurity circulars in 2015 itself. So BFSI sector is quite a bit matured in India than compared to like power sector or oil and gas sector or transportation sector, for example. These sectors are pretty vulnerable. And also the cyber crimes. There is a lack of awareness, so people fall for job scams, and people fall for phishing, people fall for a QR code scam and all kinds of cyber crimes and so on. And this is, and most of them are very difficult to solve because the police is not ready. There are very good police officers in cybercrime, but they are very few in number. So therefore, if you lose your money in a cybercrime, you do not get it back. Usually, it's unlikely you will get it back. But my bigger concern. So cybercrime usually affect individuals, right? So even though it's very sad and oftentimes devastating for an individual to lose their entire savings and so on, but it at least in a larger scheme of things, it does not affect the country as a whole. But assume that an attack on one of the choicest power system operators, transmission companies that carry a huge amount of transmission, power transmission, let's say between northern grid and western grid, or northern grid or eastern grid, and so on. If you can affect them, then you can actually create this 2012 like blackout. That blackout lasted for many hours and in 2 days. And that kind of blackout, basically almost 600 million people got blacked out, world's largest affected population by a cascading blackout. So that kind of things can happen. Similarly, water supply. So if you might have read that in the US last week, there were several water municipalities, their control systems were Israeli made control systems, and they got hacked. Thankfully, nothing like, if you hack the water purification, water, systems, then you can actually overdose the chlorine, or you can, overdose some of the reagents that they use. And then you can actually make the whole population sick for a city and so on. So those kind of things can happen. Similarly, the dams that we have, right? So we have dams in Uttarakhand, we have dams in Assam and all that stuff, and other places as well. These dams are actually controlled by digital control, right? So, and this digital control could actually be attacked, and therefore, if the certain gates get opened, you can probably flood an entire population, right? So in fact, in 2015, this happened in a New York State dam, not the New York State dam. Thankfully, that dam was very small, so it didn't affect much. It was the Iranian hackers at that time they came. It was found, but actually that name of that dam, I think it was Roosevelt or something. There is a much bigger dam in Oregon with that name, and if that people speculate that the hackers made a mistake, they chose this dam because of the same name, a similar name, but actually the other dam, if that was opened, then thousands of people would have flooded, immediately. So these are the concerns that we have to worry most, and I hope that the government is very, we have a lot of different. Indian government has a number of different agencies now that are working in cybersecurity. We have National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, NCIIPC. We have the National Cybersecurity Coordinator's Office under the PMO. We have the CERT in this Computer Emergency Response Team, India. We have also, many states have their own CERTs, Computer Emergency Response teams. And also we have the MHA has I4C, the crime Internet Crime Coordination Center. So we have a lot of things going on. It could be a lot more coordinated. We have developed into 2020-21. We have developed the Power System Operators Guideline for Cybersecurity, but unfortunately, it has not yet been a regulation. It is still a guideline, and guidelines are not necessarily very binding. So we have to move faster on those. We have to consider the water treatment facilities, at least in very large and more automated water treatment facilities under the purview of cybersecurity. We have to think about the steel plants and other manufacturing plants, oil and gas refineries, their cybersecurity. But most importantly, we need more cybersecurity professionals. This is where we are actually going to have the biggest problem, because without the right professionals, many times we actually put an IT guy as a cybersecurity head because we don't have the right professional. Now, without proper training, without proper skill, etc., they may not. Their capabilities might be limited. Their vision and vision about possible ways threats can come and how to fight against those threats may be limited. So we have to work a lot, and we have to take it in at an emergency footing, which I think is still not the same level of emergency footing is seen as I would like. But there are a lot of activities. So between, like, I would say 2016 to now, there is a lot more awareness. Government is very aware. the various activities are undertaken, various projects are undertaken. But I think more faster and more coordinated activities could make it better. And the understanding that we are actually at the mercy of countries like China to not attack us. Right now, that is the situation, that they are not attacking us. There has been signs of them being present in our systems, but they haven't. They do not attack us, probably because that would be a declaration of war, right? So probably that is why they don't attack us. But if there is a larger skirmish like what we had in 2020 in the border, then things can go very wrong very quickly. It's like what the Ukraine faced in Russia with Russia. So I think that we need to have this in a lot more war footing than we are probably doing. But I think that rather than crypto, there is a movement in the right direction.
So thank you. Really, really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast, sharing your insights on the blockchain endeavors as well as cybersecurity. I hope that the government takes more cognizant about the world that we've been catapulted into, the digital world, and where we need to be more aware, because you mentioned about, shared about the dams in the New York and water supplies being hacked. In this largely digital world, we need to take more effort rather than being caught up like how we were, like the entire globe was caught up, when it came to COVID. So please keep on doing what you're doing. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.